Yes, Mataji, you are good to start. Hare Krishna.
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नास्त्यप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवद्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्वमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Today we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 4. Ahimsa satyamasteyam yavad artha parigraha brahmacharyam tapashaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam. Ahimsa satyam asteyam yavad artha parigraha brahmacharyam tapashaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam. Ahimsa satyam asteyam yavad artha parigraha brahmacharyam tapashaucham swadhyaya purusharchanam. Word meanings: ahimsa, non-violence; satyam, yogic, sat, good; asana, yogic postures; jaya, controlling; sthiryam, steadiness; prana jaya, controlling vital air; sanai, gradually. Oh, I think I'm going into the wrong verse. Verse is verse number 4. It went to the wrong place. Okay. Ahimsa, non-violence; satyam, truthfulness; asteyam, refraining from theft; yavat artha, as much as necessary; parigraha, possessing; brahmacharyam, celibacy; tapa, austerity; shaucham, cleanliness; swadhyaya, study of Vedas; purusha archanam, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One should practice non-violence and truthfulness, should avoid thieving and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The word Purusha Archanam in this verse means worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially the form of Lord Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by Arjuna that Krishna is the original Purusha, or the personality of Godhead. Purusham Shashvatam. Therefore, in yoga practice, one not only must concentrate his mind on the person of Krishna, but also worship the form or deity of Krishna daily. A brahmachari practices celibacy, controlling his sex life. One cannot enjoy unrestricted sex life and practice yoga. This is rascaldom. So-called yogis advertise that one can go on enjoying as one likes and simultaneously become a yogi. But this is totally unauthorized. It is very clearly explained here that one must observe celibacy. Brahmacharya means that one leads his life simply in relationship with Brahman or in full Krishna consciousness. Those who are too addicted to sex life cannot observe the regulations which will lead them to Krishna consciousness. Sex life should be restricted to persons who are married. A person whose sex life is restricted in marriage is also called a brahmachari. The word asteyam is also very important for a yogi. Asteyam means to refrain from theft. In the broader sense, everyone who accumulates more than he needs is a thief. According to spiritual communism, one cannot possess more than he needs for his personal maintenance. That is the law of nature. Anyone who accumulates more money or more possessions than he needs is called a thief. And one who simply accumulates wealth without spending for sacrifice or for worship of the personality of Godhead is a great thief. Swadhyaya means reading the authorized Vedic scriptures. Even if one is not Krishna conscious and is practicing the yoga system, he must read standard Vedic literature in order to understand. Um, Performance of yoga alone is not sufficient. Narottam Das Thakur, a great devotee and acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, says that all spiritual activities should be understood from three sources, namely saintly persons, standard scriptures, and the spiritual master. These three guides are very important for progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master prescribes standard literature for the prosecution of the yoga of devotional service. And he himself speaks only from scriptural reference. Therefore, reading standard scriptures is necessary for executing yoga. Practicing yoga without reading the standard literature is simply a waste of time. Om Atnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today's topic is what is it? I had you didn't ask for it, so I think uh, I had it somewhere. I wrote it down. I sent it to Linga Raju. Just give me a minute. Prabhu, please write today's topic as
Mhm.
goal of yoga, within quotation, devotional submission. You got that, Prabhu?
Yes, ma. Devotional.
Goal of yoga is devotional submission, within
Yes.
quotation.
Okay, Mataji. Got it. I will
Om
update.
Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here in this chapter, there is this discussion on the topic of Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga. So from verses 1 through 12, there is this description of various limbs of yoga. As all of you know, the 8 different limbs of yoga, yama, niyama, etc. And particularly in this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada is giving a list of focusing on some of the aspects. He gives in the purpose in the translation there is a list of things that are mentioned. One is ahimsa, which is non-violence. Satyam is truthfulness. Asteyam is refraining from theft. Yavat Artha means as much as necessary, meaning take only what is needed. Brahmacharyam is celibacy. Tapas is austerity and controlling of the senses. Shaucham is cleanliness. Swa Adhyaya is the study of the Vedas, including Japa also. Purusha Archanam is the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, out of all these, interesting to note that Purusha Archanam, which is coming in the end of this translation, Srila Prabhupada is elaborating on that in the very beginning of his purport. Other than that, Prabhupada is talking in this purport about Asteyam, I think, yeah, Asteyam and Tapa Swadhyaya. And those are the ones he focused on. Interesting that in Kriya Yoga, which is actually Paramahamsa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga system, there are three of these. These are all actually falling under the category of niyamas, and three of these, which are tapa, which is austerity, and swadhyaya, study of the scriptures, and worship of the Lord. Those three are the focus in the practitioners of Kriya Yoga. So in this purport, these niyamas that are listed here is pointed out, these are very important for the success of yoga practice. So Purusha Archanam, as I mentioned, Srila Prabhupada is focusing on worship of the Lord, especially in the form of Lord Krishna. And Krishna being the original Purusha, and the Maharaj was, His Holiness Ramapa Swami Maharaj spoke a lot about Purusha, who is the Purusha, and what is it between, what is the difference, or what is the commonality of Purusha and Krishna, and who is Brahma's father. In relating to that topic, he spoke a lot about those during this past visit. So in yoga practice, one should not only concentrate on the mind, one should not only concentrate one's mind on the person Krishna, not just the mind alone, but mind is definitely required, but also worship the form of the Lord, which is our deity worship. Now, deity, you can see the importance of deity worship from this perspective, that worship of the deity becomes an essential part of what you call it as theistic approach to bhakti, and it is part of bhakti tradition, worship of the deity form. It's very important for us to understand the significance of this. So there are these 4 points discussed in the purport: Purusharchanam, celibacy, Asteyam, and Swadhyaya. Interesting to note that Prabhupada did not elaborate too much on austerity. Anyway, our practice is not based on too much of austerity. But in today's discussion, I thought of bringing up the need of austerity and the degree to which austerity should be performed. It cannot be too much or it cannot be too little. It is a very important component for the success of yoga practice. And in the purport, Prabhupada is quoting Narottam Das Thakur, and Srila Narottam Das Thakur talks about this very important thing. This also came up during this time Ramapa Swami Maharaj's visit. This is all spiritual activities. It should be understood from 3 sources. One is saintly persons, the other one is from the standard scriptures, and then the spiritual master. So these are the authentic sources. These guides are necessary in our life. And however, whatever else we do, we pay attention to any component of the yoga practice, without the guidance or without the association of saintly persons and their mercy, we cannot make any spiritual progress. We all know that. So they are very important for the success in spiritual life. So then the speed at which one attains the goal of yoga is also depending on the degree of one's commitment. Now, the degree of commitment and the intensity with which one practice the yoga may differ from person to person. And as we all have heard so many times, even people like Saurabhi Muni, who went underwater to practice yoga, it was intense practice, but he failed, just got distracted to fish who were mating, and he fell down. So the intensity of practice is important, and the degree of commitment is important. All these are necessary. Um, Now, why there is so much differences in between practitioners? Because somebody may be more focused than others, and our scriptures tells us that um, sometimes disruptive samskaras from our previous life can have they can exert this influence on the various yoga practitioners in this lifetime. And uh, so these samskaras from previous life may interfere with our practice, and um, so this is the reason why we have to stay fully committed, or the degree of commitment should be very, very high. And then, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one may be able to successfully practice yoga. Now, again, this Purusha Archana, just I wanted to focus on that. The word used is Purusha Archana, worship of Purusha. Now, in Ashtanga Yoga system, there is another terminology used that is called Ishvara Pranidhana. So Ishvara Pranidhana is devotion or dedication to God. This topic came in throughout this last week discussion on Lord Brahma's prayers. Lord Brahma, after everything, Lord Brahma's desire to be the recipient of the mercy of the Vrajabasis, the dust of their lotus feet is all that Lord Brahma asked for in the end, nothing else. So devotion or dedication to God, complete submission to God is what is the meaning of the word Ishvara Pranidhana. And that's also this Purusha Archana, the worship of Purusha indicates that. Now, here again, by the mercy of saintly devotees, and by the mercy of saintly devotees, we get the grace of Krishna. Now, this grace that is coming from the Lord, it goes back to even in the Upanishadic literature. There is Katha Upanishad and Shweta Swatara Upanishad, which clearly explains this about this grace. Many of our Vedic scriptures speaks about that. So Ishvara Pranidhana, in here, what is who is Ishvara, and who is Ishvara is a question, because anybody can be Ishvara, because we hear about Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or many other demigods sometimes referred to as Ishvara. But in Brahma Samhita, we clearly see Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The Parama Ishvara is Krishna, and he is Sachid Ananda Vigraha. So we know clearly that is Ishvara is Krishna. So there is a statement. According to these Upanishadic statements, it's clearly stated there that the goal of yoga is obtained only by the grace of God. An example, like in Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, there is a statement which says, greater than the great, smaller than the small, is the Atman situated in the heart of beings. One without desires and free from sorrow sees the majesty of the self by the grace of the Creator. So this concept of grace of God, it is there in the Upanishads. So Pranidhana, the word pranidhana really means placing oneself totally in a submissive mood in front of the Lord, prostrating oneself, submitting oneself, falling down like a rod, or like our Goswamis, they will take a straw in their mouth and fall down. That is the kind of submission we are talking about. So placing oneself down. What that means is devotional submission. It means a lot. It's devotional submission. Now, this word pranidhana is coming in Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, verse 44. Arjuna is telling to Krishna, "You are the supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down, pranidhana. Thus I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask for your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, or a friend tolerates the impertinence of a friend, or a wife tolerates the familiarity of her partner, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done to you." Now, this shows the longing in the heart of Arjuna. And this is exactly what is needed on the part of a yogi also. If intensity, that longing to submit oneself to the Supreme Lord. And then at that point, God bestows his grace upon his devotee. So that is when the goal of yoga is obtained. So in Ishvara Pranidhana, um, dedicating everything to the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, it also includes renunciation of our desire for the fruits of action. But that is renunciation of for the fruits, renunciation of the fruits of action, which is described in Gita. That is just the very beginning. The beauty of Gita, among so many other things, there is nothing to no literature same as Gita. And here, Krishna is clearly describing different levels of practice. And in the beginning, there is this description of how you perform your devotional activities without being attached to the fruits. Um, so, but it doesn't end there. Krishna takes it step by step to um, higher levels of practice. So, so that means there are different degrees of concentration required, and different degrees of submission produces different degrees of result. So yogis who are very advanced, they have what you call an inward concentration, total inward concentration on Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So outward or action oriented practices are for those of us who are outwardly inclined. Now, A simple example to understand this is Manasa Puja in deity worship. When we were getting trained in deity worship, a lot of discussion went into this. So, so we already discussed in the beginning of today's class that there is there is not only we worship Krishna, but we daily worship Krishna's form, which is part of our bhakti practice. But this can be done as an outward gesture, which means like you can see a pujari doing the incense, ghee lamp, and all those things mechanical way, but a pujari who is um, more focused will do it with full mind fully attached to Krishna. Or any puja related activities that a person does, when the mind is involved, it becomes manasa puja. So manasa puja is actually where the focus is inward, but doing things superficially is where our attention is outwardly inclined. So this is an easy way of explaining that um, the degree of concentration varies in the same practice. Degree of concentration is very much stressed in yoga practice, though. So one has to do with in a mindful way, and then the result is different. So another point is this surrendering to God. It is not even an option. It is not at all an option, but it is a mandatory part of yoga practice. Total surrender to the Supreme Lord. And what is that? That is really the process of bhakti. Now, Karma Yoga is described in Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga is an action oriented path. Krishna beautifully describes it. And by doing so, we can avoid some of the consequence of karmic cycles or karmic reactions. But acting purely out of duty, that is trust in Karma Yoga. But instead of self-interest, acting out of duty. But then subsequently, Krishna speaks more about what is the culmination of all these things. The culmination of all those things is not doing things out of duty alone, but out of love for Krishna. Krishna really takes it uh, from a lower level of practice to the higher level of understanding in Bhagavad Gita. He really walks us through that. So, development of the path of bhakti is beautifully explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So, ultimately, one is not doing it for duty, but out of love and devotion for the Lord. So, in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 27th verse, Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. What is that offering? That offering is out of love for Krishna. Again, in 529 Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yatna Tapasam word, Krishna is really establishing his supremacy. He says, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So he's establishing his superiority. And so in Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, in both these paths, it requires the abandonment of self-interest. Krishna stresses that in both cases. So motivating factor should be devotion and not just duty. So action performed as an offering to Krishna, Ishvara. So devotion is the core of all these and not just duty for the sake of duty. So in 18th chapter of Gita, when Krishna is speaking about Sarvadharmam Parityajya, that verse, Krishna is very conspicuously, he is establishing the supremacy of bhakti. And when he is addressing Arjuna and saying to him, abandon all varieties of religion, he means abandon. It's not just the doing the thing for the duty's sake, but devote yourself in my service. That is exclusively to me. That is Krishna's request. So in the end, after the whole Gita is spoken and Arjuna decides to do his service, at that point, it is not just duty for Arjuna. He is doing it out of love for Krishna. So that is the main message. And then again, in this practice of bhakti yoga, um, there is this it takes the form of puja. Now puja means worship, and this puja is described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 14. And there we all know this verse, satatam kirtayanto mam Bhajandasya Dridhavrata Namasyantascha Mam Bhaktya Nitya Yukta Upasate. Upasana is the word. So Upasana is either worship or puja. It is the same word, Upasana. Upasana is worship. So always chanting my glories and endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So that is the meaning of the word, whether it is Ishvara Pranidhana or whether it is Purusha Archana. Archana mentioned in this verse in Bhagavad Gita, worship mentioned in other verses, puja. Or puja is worship too. So this is to be understood. Now I'll conclude it with a couple of other interesting aspects of this verse. Um, Bhagavad Gita again speaks about abhyasa and vairagya. Now there are so many different type of yoga practices. Like Ashtanga yoga, there is Kriya yoga. Kriya yoga is um, taught by Paramahamsa Yogananda and his followers. And Kriya yoga is a kind of a meditation technique, and it is focused on energy. It is focused on breath control and pranayama. And three key components of this Kriya Yoga practice is it's like an action-oriented yoga. They talk about, they call as the three pillars of the Kriya Yoga practice is tapas, which is discipline, swadhyaya, which is study of Vedas, and Ishvara Pranidhana, worship of the Lord. Now, all these are coming in this particular verse as part of the niyamas. And so we understand from study of Gita, practice and detachment. Krishna says that, what is it? Abhyasa, and by abhyasa and vairagya. Krishna uses these words. But this is also part of various type of yoga practices. But to get to the point of abhyasa and vairagya, or practice and dispassion, one has to one must be predominantly in the mode of sattva guna. But if you have an outgoing mind, it is very difficult to do that. And majority of us do have this outgoing mind, and it is always under the influence of rajas and tamas. We know that. And so um, for such temperaments, and we are also practicing bhakti yoga. In Kriya Yoga, these components which I mentioned, which is tapas, discipline, it somehow helps to bring back the purity of mind. So sattva guna is cultivated, and that helps really. And when the mind is more sattvic in nature, it is more capable of remaining fixed on the practice and dispassion. But mind has to be in sattvic mode. And again, the whole purpose of all these different components of yoga system is bringing the mind from rajasic to tamasic to sattvic. So in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 3rd verse, Krishna is saying, for one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So, so there is a time and a place for uh, different levels of engagement in yoga, but practice is necessary. In this verse also, there is this mention of tapas, about the control of senses. Um, so control of senses, there are a list of things we can think about, even including the intake of food, the nature of the food that we take. Um, so by regulating these things, um, so there is no question of yoga. This is very important, that there is no question of yoga if one does not practice this self-discipline. And self-discipline is austerity. Now, we are not big proponents of severe austerities. Um, the purpose of this, even this is the necessity for doing this, is bringing the mind to a sattvic situation. Um, so we have very deeply ingrained habits, and it cannot be removed without self-discipline. And so because of that, because of the tendency of the mind to pursue sense gratification, um, it can be tamed only by discipline. But at the same time, it's so important to understand that this self-discipline, it cannot be taken to the extreme. One example which always comes to my mind is the degree of the austerity. Take, for example, Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi. Many times I had devotees sometimes call and ask what to do, because I have all these health issues. How to do? How can I not to do Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi? If people have extreme health issues, it's common sense not to do that, because one will collapse. So this practice of austerities should be gentle. We have to be gentle to ourselves, and that should not, anything that we do should not disrupt the clarity of our mind, clarity of thinking. When it gets impacted, you know for sure that we have taken it to the extreme. When it affects, it weakens the body, we know it is an extreme. So in those cases, when you see your mind is impacted, your body is impacted, one has to restrain. So this self-discipline has different components, like celibacy is one of that, service to guru is one of that, um, satyam, speaking the truth, gravity, silence, performance of appropriate duty, tolerance of extremes, controlled intake of food, all of this falls under the category of this celibacy. Sorry, not self-discipline, not celibacy. So, um, in order to bear um, uh, fruit for the yoga practice, this practice of austerity is needed to some extent. Otherwise, we won't be operating in sattva guna, because mind has been addicted to so many things from time immemorial, as we all know, and it gets caught up on sense objects, and some example given is like a fish caught in a net. You can call that like a primordial propensity of our mind. It cannot be destroyed without the help of, it cannot be destroyed without the help of some amount of austerity. So, having said all those things which are covered in this particular verse, ultimately, again, it is total submission to the Lord, which is mandatory for the success of any spiritual practice, any type of yoga system. And what to speak about Bhakti Yoga? And it's so beautiful that in this practice, we are given all opportunities to worship Krishna in his deity form, worship Krishna with our intelligence by studying the scriptures. So the essence of or the key component of yoga practice is all there in the bhakti yoga. And so uh, we should be very thankful to Srila Prabhupada for bringing us to this understanding and giving us this gift of his books, giving us the gift of his purports to bring us all once again, get our mind back to where it belongs, not to be sidetracked by anything else. And so, with that gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, I end this today. Took a few extra minutes. If anyone would like to add some comments, any discussion, we can take a few minutes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Sachi Sudadas. Thank you. I mean, it's a lot of details, and really it's a very layered approach, especially the building blocks that lead us to the lead us to building a strong relationship with Krishna through deity worship. I like the fact about the inward process uh,
Mm,
and the Manasa Puja. Like in my childhood days, when I had the samskara of Upanayanam,
mm,
we go out and travel in trains
mm.
at the time of a transition on every day. We are also recommended to do the entire thing and a mindful as without doing the argya or thing, but it's like meditating on that factors. Now I'm able to connect all these things with what you are saying.
Yeah.
It's very nice of thank you, Mataji.
Generally speaking, our minds are outward directed, and that is why all these yamas and niyamas come into the picture, and especially this discipline. Discipline becomes essential because we have an outward facing mind. If we were all inward facing, we don't need that. Right? Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
I think time is gone, unless somebody has something to say. Thank you all for your patience. Appreciate. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare